Take a good look at this. It might seem like just another highway in Assam, but it's not. This strip of road has now become one of the most critical pieces of India's national security puzzle. Something just happened here that signals a huge shift in the country's defense strategy. So let's break down exactly what went down and, more importantly, why it matters.
You know, when the Prime Minister himself announces a new piece of infrastructure, you know it's a major deal. And that's exactly what happened. This one tweet about a new emergency landing facility in the Northeast really got people talking, and for a very good reason. Because let's be clear, this is about so much more than just a new road. This is about national security, plain and simple.
And this wasn't your typical ribbon-cutting ceremony. Not by a long shot. The Prime Minister actually landed there in a massive C-130 Hercules military transport plane. Now that sends a powerful message, doesn't it? It was a very clear demonstration of just how strategically important this new infrastructure is, and you saw the country's top leadership all celebrating it.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get into what made this landing so historic. Then, we'll answer the big question, why on earth would you build a runway on a highway? We'll also look at India's huge nationwide plan for more of these, and then we'll have to compare it to what China's been up to. And finally, we'll ask that all-important question, is this a classic case of better late than never?
Okay, let's dive into our first section, the historic landing itself. So this all went down in Assam's Dibrugarh district, and believe me, it was quite a spectacle.
So this was way more than just a symbolic landing. It was a full-blown demonstration of air power. I mean, right after that huge C-130 landed, they had a Sukhoi Su-30 and a Rafale fighter jet take off from the exact same highway. This 4.2-kilometer strip, which cost about 100 crore rupees, just proved, without a doubt, that it's ready to handle India's frontline combat aircraft. That's a huge deal.
Okay, which brings us to the big question, right? Why is everyone, from the Prime Minister to the Defense Minister, tweeting and talking about what is, let's face it, a stretch of highway? What is the big deal here? What makes this so strategically important?
Well, the answer lies in a pretty sobering scenario. A what-if that military planners have to think about all the time. What happens if our main air bases are compromised?
Just imagine for a second, a surprise attack happens. What's the enemy's #1 target? It's going to be our air bases. Their first move would be to completely neutralize our air force by destroying our runways. Because if our planes can't even get off the ground, they can't fight back.
So if our main runways are just a bunch of craters and totally unusable, where do our fighter jets take off from to defend the country? How do we get them in the air to fight? That right there is a massive critical vulnerability.
And this is where the solution comes in. It's called an emergency landing facility, or ELF for short. Basically, it's a specially reinforced stretch of highway that can double as a runway. You're literally transforming a piece of everyday civilian infrastructure into a powerful strategic asset. It's the ultimate backup plan, ensuring our Air Force can keep flying even if our main bases are hit.
Now, the really interesting thing is that this facility in Assam isn't just a one-off project. Not at all. It's actually just the first piece of a much, much bigger nationwide strategy to really shore up India's defenses. Get this. The plan is to build a whole network of 28 of these emergency landing facilities all across the country. So we're not just talking about one highway here. The goal is to create this resilient, decentralized web of backup airstrips, making sure our air operations can continue no matter what.
And if you look at where they're planning to build these, you can really see the strategic thinking behind it all. The highest number of them are planned for the east. We're talking 5 in Assam and another 4 in West Bengal. It's a crystal clear signal that the focus is on reinforcing that particular border.
But you know, this is only half the picture. To really understand the urgency and the full context here, we have to look across the border. And yep, that means we need to talk about China. And when you put the timelines side by side, a pretty stark picture starts to emerge. So India formally announced its national plan in 2022, and this first facility in the Northeast is just now becoming operational. Now compare that to China. They started planning for this stuff way back in 2008 and were already running tests by 2014. So yeah, that timeline really highlights a pretty significant gap. Think about it. Back in 2014, China was already test flying its fighter jets from highways. This isn't some new cutting-edge idea. It's a capability they've had for a while, and India is essentially playing catch-up, trying to close a strategic gap that's more than a decade old. And this really fits into a broader pattern that a lot of analysts have pointed out. Time and time again, China has shown that it can plan, execute, and finish these massive infrastructure and tech projects at a speed that's just incredible. Which brings us to the final section,
So how should we look at all this? Is India too late to the game, or is this a clear-cut case of better late than never?
Look, there's no denying that India is behind on this, but the completion of even this one ELF is still a huge and absolutely necessary achievement. Just having one of these facilities up and running gives a significant boost to India's defensive posture and its overall resilience.
So, at the end of the day, India has proven it can build these vital strategic assets. The question is no longer if they can do it. The focus now completely shifts to speed. The real challenge, the crucial question now, is one of pace. Can this nationwide network of 28 highway runways be built fast enough to close that gap and truly secure the skies?